Welcome on into another episode of D-Backs Dispatch with your hosts here, Gabe, Brandon, and Brett. If you guys are first time, checking us out on YouTube, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Get notified every single time every single time that we go live. And then to anybody that's in here in the live comments in the live chat, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, appreciate every single one of you guys. Any questions you have, put it in the chat, and we'll star it. And at the very end of the show, we'll go over some any questions, comments, anything that you guys basically have at the end. But also make sure to check out the Twitter, Discord, and all the articles on AZ Snake Pit. But we are here to talk about a series that, unfortunately, the good vibes did not translate from San Francisco to where the D-backs kind of got manhandled. And I don't want to use the cliche, but Houston, we might have a problem because it wasn't looking good after the first two games. But before we fully dive into it, any initial thoughts from you two fellas? Gabe, I guess we'll start with you.
Just that, it's Houston. They're a good team. They're in the ALCS every single year for the last 8 years in a row. So I wasn't expecting, I was expecting a more competitive games than we really saw. But unfortunately, just so much of this goes on the inability for the starting pitchers to get deep into games.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, they did not show up for what they needed to do at all this series. What about you, Brandon? What kind of stood out to you in this 3-game series down in Texas?
Houston has our number. I'm pretty sure they've won 5 or 6 because I think they swept us the last series of the season last year. They won 2 or 3 of this. So if we end up playing them in the World Series right now, I don't feel comfortable at all. The way this series went, that's a 4-game sweep without a doubt. Maybe a gentleman's sweep with a 5-game series, but they did not look good for the most part. It was not the best series, but thankfully, this feels weird to say, Pavin Smith saved us.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think I need to get some soap and water and wash that out of my mouth because that felt so weird to say.
I'm surprised you could even say that. It's almost figured it would be like a Voldemort thing where you couldn't actually say we couldn't say positive things about him. But yeah, we'll get to Pavin Smith in Game 3 because that was probably one of the only shining nuggets in this series of poo-poo that we had to deal with. But starting off things, obviously, like Brandon said, Astros just had our numbers. It definitely looked that way in Game 1. D-backs were blanked 8-0. The offense just couldn't get anything going. They were shut down for 17 innings following the going over from the San Francisco Game 3 to this one. Framber Valdez was just doing Framber Valdez things. He's always been really solid, and when he's locked in, he can make any lineup kind of look like foolish. But it doesn't really help either when Yordan Alvarez and the rest of the Astros lineup, well, maybe just Yordan's doing his thing, and Brandon Pfaadt just can't seem to avoid the big blow-up inning issue once again. So, like I said, the 8-0 game didn't really seem like there was much. But the main thing I wanted to touch on first here was, like I said, Brandon Pfaadt and his blow-up inning issue. I put down in the doc for you guys to kind of look at to see, his inning by inning split through his 28 starts, and kind of digest that a little bit, and then something that Gabe, you might maybe have a little more info on or maybe notes on is it seemed that Brandon Pfaadt in this game and maybe his last few games has been kind of going back and forth on the rubber, on the third base side to the first base side. I don't know if there's any patterns to it or whatnot, but do you think that this was intentional from Pfaadt? Do you think it's something that he's actually fully aware of? Maybe it's a game plan from him and Strami. And if so, do you think that this could have been part of his struggles, or do you think it was more of, the Astros being a good lineup and just end up facing a good team?
It's probably a little bit of both, just because it seems like moving from different sizes of rubber, it's only happened the last couple of starts. I think they brought it up on a broadcast. Tom Candiotti, I believe, brought it up 1 or 2 starts ago that he was on the third base side again instead of on the first base side, which we mentioned before, which is one of the big Strami moves, was to move him from the third base to the first base. And this game, like in the first inning, he seemed to be on his normal side, and then for the second inning, he moved to base Altuve, I believe, from the third base side, and Altuve still got a hit off of him. And it's just, I don't know, like I would assume it's one of those things where he wants to, um, just sort of alleviate or get rid of that inning. The only thing I was worried about is him tipping because of that. I looked at every pitch that he was throwing. I'm like, okay, so is he just throwing fastballs, on the third base side? Is he throwing off speed from the first base side? I wanted to see, like, is he maybe accidentally tipping because of that? And no, it just seems like every batter, he just kind of was, at times it was just for one batter, he would be on the first base side, and for another one, he'd be on the third base side. And then in between the counts, he would, throw a fastball, then move to the other side of the rubber and throw a fastball again. So it was just like, it was just a really weird situation where, at least, for me, there was no rhyme or reason. I would have to do a complete deep dive into every single pitch thrown that inning or that start. I mean, it'd take a while to go through every single one, map it out. Okay, see on this side, that side. But it seems like he might be trying to alleviate it, just find a way to get past that inning where he really struggles, but didn't really seem to work out. And this wasn't a bad pitch to Jordan, although if you have the clip, I don't think the pitch hit the spot. It went up and in, and I believe it was ADC or was it Herrera? It was Herrera, right?
That is Herrera. That's what it looks like.
He set up to be like a little bit lower, and he just throw it up and in, and it's like I think that's almost exactly where Robbie Ray threw it to him too. So it's just up and in like that. If you don't get it outside of the zone, he's going to hit it. And unfortunately, he made him pay. And it just, it wasn't the typical start that we've seen. But I don't know if you guys noticed, they were drenched in sweat. They looked horrible out there. Like their jerseys looked a completely different color, especially when they're wearing the red one. It looked maroon just because of how sweaty they were.
I'm born and raised in Arizona. Like I've gone through some of the worst summers ever. The one time I was in Houston for a trip back in 2017, maybe the weather was bad because it was actually a week before the big hurricane hit there. But the one time I was there, it got up to 92 at most, and the humidity was like 95, and it was the worst thing. I was in a t-shirt and shorts, and again, I'm used to the dry heat. That killed me. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the just it was, it's getting to the colder time of year. Maybe they have some rainstorms over there. But yeah, that's a good point. They were a little more drenched than normal. And to your point about Fought and maybe the different sides of the batters to Altuve, and then even that pitch to Jordan. Jordan Alvarez is a top 3 hitter in the league, maybe behind Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. I think those are the only 2 that you might have a case to have in front of him. But Jordan is just an amazing hitter, and the fact that he was one of the main things in this game that kind of put the D-backs behind the 8 ball was what stood out to me. But Brandon, kind of pivoting onto you, what about Fought do you think led to his struggles? Was it the thing on the rubber, or do you think it was again more of just the Astros had a good game plan going up against him in this one?
So Gabe kind of brought up the whole thing about the rubber. So when I rewatched the game, every at bat, I was starting to chart where he was on the rubber. And then after a while, I'm like, he was mainly on the third base side. But the thing that stood out to me was when he faced Pena in the third inning. First pitch, he's like middle third, like it's not completely on the third base side. It was like middle-ish. That was the first pitch. Next pitch, he's completely on the first base side. Like, why the change in the middle of an at-bat? And the only thing I can think of is that whatever pitch he is throwing, he throws better from that part of the rubber. But again, like Gabe said, we would have to do a real deep dive probably on his last few starts, chart every single pitch. Where is he on the rubber? And does he stay on that spot? And then maybe take a look at, because like you said, we did splits per inning. And like you're like, oh, take a look at the fifth, and I'm like, I don't want to because I know it's bad. Because from a memory, I always remember there was some. He had so many starts where he was cruising through first 4 innings, no issues whatsoever, and then the fifth was a blowout. And this is ridiculous. 26 and two-thirds innings in the fifth inning. His ERA is about 9.5. What the hell? Like that is, and opponents are slashing over 1,000 OPS. Like that to me is absolutely, like, I knew it was bad. I didn't realize it was that bad. And like, and it's weird. The 6th and the 7th are just as bad. The 6th is at 6.64 ERA in 20 innings. And the 7th is a ERA of 9 with only 6 innings. But innings 1 through 4, he's really good. It's that 5th inning. I don't know what, like, it definitely seems, and we probably have to do a little bit more of a deep dive, is that when he starts the third time through the lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of it was. Is he's starting the third time through the lineup there in the 5th.
I think the team has been aware of that because if you remember in the playoffs, as soon as he hit the 4th inning, as soon as he would finish the 4th inning, they would take him out. They wouldn't let him face the lineup the third time through the order, like against Milwaukee, and I believe against the Dodgers, he took him out within the 4th inning.
Game 3, yep.
Yeah, and then I think against the Phillies was the first time they really let him go. That's because they also ran out of pitching, as you know, it was a 7-game series, so they kind of let him go a little bit longer. And I remember just because he was cruising, they didn't let him go through the third time through the order, but I believe he had already like 5 2/3 or something like that. And then obviously the fans booed because they were unhappy about it. I mean, rightly so, but also I think, if the D-backs at this, if they make the playoffs, that is something to monitor with Brandon Pfaadt is will they start to take him out and get somebody else ready in the bullpen for, after the 4th inning or after the third time through the lineup, because he clearly struggles. His ERA jumps by 7 runs. Like it's not, it's not a small sample size either. 26 innings is enough to where you can notice that there's a big difference there. And it's just, like I said, as great as he's been, he has the one blow up inning, and we can't afford that in the playoffs. So I can see them getting certain guys warmed up. Just depends on how this whole thing shakes out. If I can see them bringing in Ryan Nelson or something to come in after the 4th or something.
Yeah, it just seems to be an issue that he always runs into, and that's the weird thing is because I feel like even the third, obviously the 3.21 ERA, that's the third highest of the 6 innings, or the third lowest of the 6 innings, behind the 9 and the 6. So yeah, sorry, I was correct the first time. My bad, brain's frazzled. And it's a little unfortunate, but he can never escape it. And speaking of things he just can never escape, he can never escape the fact that the offense can never, ever give him run support. Like, I know we just talked about it. The Astros have a good lineup. Jordan Alvarez, sometimes you're going to get beat by it. But it does not help when your offense goes, scoreless for 17 innings in your last, 2 games combined, and then you get a total of 2 hits in these 9 innings. Like it is you can't win baseball games like that, especially when your pitching staff is giving up the amount of runs that they are giving up. So the kind of offense just going silent there had me wanting to ask you two gentlemen, are the bats losing the steam before the playoffs, or is it just kind of bad night / stretch of games against some good pitchers?
Yeah, this was something that I brought up since the Cleveland series, mostly the over reliance on the home run ball. And at the time, they got a lot of pushback, not necessarily from you guys, but from people online saying like, "Whoa, well, they're winning. What does it matter how they score the runs?" And this is why. Like, if they weren't hitting home runs, they weren't scoring. Like even yesterday, how many they put up 8 runs because of Pavin Smith's home runs, and
he had 8 RBI. He had 8 RBI in the game.
I believe they might have had this whole series maybe 2 or 3 runs that weren't off a home run, and you're talking about 36 innings, a couple of runs that weren't based off of a home run. And this is why that this matters when this team, especially, when you have guys like this isn't, the Phillies lineup. This isn't LA. this is a team that should be, stringing together hits, making teams work, like we saw them do against Blake Snell. That's what this team should be. They took him out early and then just got completely shut down after that. But that's who this team is. That should be who their identity is, to just knock these guys out early, force them to use the bullpen, and then, go from there, especially with the way they score in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And it's just, like I said, I think it's a home run reliance. It's brings a lot of issues when everybody's swinging for the fences. We saw it over and over in this game, and then the second game too. They were swinging out of their shoes. Go back and watch. Marte just literally looks like he was about to literally swing out of his shoes the way he was taking these hacks. Same with Walker. They've all been struggling since coming back. They all want to hit a bunch of home runs, and again, that's not who this team is. Just string together some hits, get a couple singles, make them work. And if you get the big hit, you get the big hit. And if you don't, that's fine. Just still get doubles, get triples. Corbin, he really struggled in this series. Get a couple triples, Corbin. Don't go for the home run, because he kept popping out and getting grounding out. That's somebody who's trying to hit home runs, because to counter the home runs, when you have a really good pitcher, you go up high with the fastballs and then down low with the off speed, which is what they were doing and how they were attacking them. That's why in the series, it's a lot of strikeouts, a lot of pop-ups, and a lot of ground balls. So hopefully they can make an adjustment coming up later against the Rangers and some of these other harder series. But I'm not too happy with the way things look. But this was already a worrying trend, like I said, since the Cleveland series, and it seems to finally have come back to bit them. And so it's up to the D-backs to adjust, figure out, who their identity is going forward, because we only have 18 games left. So
yeah,
they got to figure this out a lot sooner than later, because if not, then, we shoot it out. This could be another September collapse, and then we don't know what the future of this team might be.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to see, another 2018. I Vietnam flashbacks every single time. Don't need to see it again. And I think your point about the home reliance still being somewhat of an issue, like the great point about the guys just swinging out of the shoes. Some of those look like that bats we would get from the early season Diamondbacks back when they were the under 7 games under 500 Diamondbacks. Gino hitting 190, not the ones that we've seen over the last 2.5 months. But same question to you, Brandon. Are you, worried about the D-backs bats and stuff kind of just losing steam at the inopportune time? Or was this just a, stretch where, kind of like in baseball, you can always go through a stretch like this?
So I'm kind of in the middle. It does worry me at this late in the season with how every game at this point is heightened to 12. If you include the first inning of game 2, they went 18 consecutive innings without a run. If you include the 2nd through the 9th against the Giants, the full game against Houston in game 1, and then the first inning in game 2. It does worry me some, but also we have seen this since June or middle of June. They do this. They lead all of Major League Baseball in number of games scoring 10 plus runs or more, but also they're pretty high up there in games where they score 2 or less. So it does worry me, but I always know that they always find a way to snap out of it. Game 1, I'm not super worried, because Framber Valdez is a very good pitcher. He is a very good pitcher. So it's not like it was to be honest, I'm more concerned about what happened against the Giants in game 3, where they were patient in the first inning. Then Giants bring in Roop, who shuts them down for 4 innings. That's what worried me, not the fact that they struggled against Valdez. Valdez, it was either last year or 22. He was a Cy Young candidate for a good portion of the season. He's not some bum. He's a very good pitcher. But yeah, whenever your team gets 2 hits in a game, you're going to be worried, because these guys get paid millions, just like Valdez get paid millions to be good at what they do. So it does worry me a little bit, but based on what happened in games 2 and 3, I think it was fine. Sometimes I'm glad we don't do a stream after every game because I think we would overreact like quite a bit. But
Us? No. What?
Like,
no, we would never.
Like, okay, this series overall was disappointing because we were pretty much non-competitive in game 1. Game 2, we were competitive for about half, and then game 3, in front of all of America, thanks to Pavin Smith, we were absolutely dominant. Like the yo-yo of this team and the fan base on Twitter, the yo-yo is absolutely ridiculous. Like, if you go and look at people's tweets after game 1 and then after game 3, it's completely different.
I think so that's why I'm like, just sports though. Like even trust me, I went through that. Like now that we're back into
that's
football,
baseball
like,
though.
Quick side topic.
Like
it's football, baseball. It's basketball. Everybody does it though. Baseball much more because every pitch, every play matters. But every sport.
No, but what I'm saying is your next game's the next day. You don't get done in basketball. Usually you have to wait a day or two. Football, you got to wait a week. So like you're like stewing on these things that were so frustrating. Baseball, you could completely forget about. Like most people probably, like the people that like actually watch every game like we do, they'll remember what happened in game 1. Most people that are casual watchers, when they watch Sunday Night Baseball, they probably completely forgot about game 1. So I'm worried, yes, but I'm not like, oh my, we're going to miss the playoffs. We could, yes, but we could also go on another one of our runs, which is what this team has done. Like the entire second half of the year is they're just that offense. When they're clicking, they're the best in Major League Baseball. I will say they are better than the Dodgers because 1 through 9 is more deadly. Yes, the Dodgers 1 through 4, 1 through 5 is really good. 6 through 9 is not very great. Like, I'm pretty sure Domo had a couple at bats in this series where he was a 6, 7, 8 pitch at bat. Like, it's just, if you were to box score, you would see, like, why is Perdomo so special? Actually go ahead and watch his at bats. Watch what he does in the game. I love how he pops in as soon as I talk trash about the Dodgers. This is my friend from work that's a huge Dodgers fan. So thanks for stopping by. But before we continue, a couple shout outs here. AZ Bubba, Corbin Barrels, V there with awesome, unique profile picture, but photo of a snake. But yeah, I don't want to see like these like a week long or a series long where we go 3 straight games with like 4 hits, 1 or 2 runs, and or they go in the first and second inning where they're like 4 hits and then nothing till the 8th. Like that's the stuff that worries me is when they do that. Like I would rather you at least be competitive throughout the entire play the full game.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that it just seems. I mean, we've mentioned it all the time throughout like every one of our shows. Baseball's a very streaky game, and you can see a number 1 offense like the Arizona Diamondbacks 2024 offense, who is number 1 or at least number 2 in a lot of the major statistical categories across all teams, and thankfully, it somewhat didn't, or we didn't have to worry about that early on in game 2. Easy transition. You like that one right there? As the offense did, kind of show up a little bit early. They did give a 3-1 lead to Eduardo Rodriguez through 4 innings. But unfortunately, even a multi-hit game from Suarez, McCarthy, and Newman could not undo the egg that I'd say Eduardo Rodriguez and Dylan Floro laid. Between both of them, they had 5 1/3 innings pitched in game 2, 12 hits, 10 runs, 9 of them earned, 3 walks, 2 Ks, and 1 home run. So Erod, we'll kind of get to him a little bit more. Obviously, he wasn't the best, but the main thing that kind of stood out to me was Dylan Floro and his outing, because he came out there in the 5th inning, pitched a nice clean 1-2-3 inning. It was solid. Ginkel shut down the Astros, kept it a one-run game. Flora did the same, but Torrey decided to put him out there for another inning, whether the bullpen was gassed, whatever it is. Not my favorite move, and it proved to be the incorrect move, as he would open up the inning with a single, a line out, an RBI single to make it 6-4, another RBI single to make it 7-4, and then a 3-run home run, which would end his outing and be removed, which would make it from a 5-4 ball game to a 10-4 ball game. So my question to you, gentlemen, is we know that the managing of a bullpen usage this time of the year can be tough for a manager. We've mentioned we've been critical sometimes, especially with hindsight. It can make your the way you view a move differently. But it made me and Josh, and we kind of want to ask you, what's more important to this team, and I guess more importantly to you guys, saving the bullpen arms for the playoffs or ensuring you even make it to the playoffs by securing a wild card spot first?
You have to make it to the game to actually make it to the dance. Like
I was about to say, I'm like, there's no point to save it if you don't make it.
That's why I tweeted it out too. Is like he's like Torrey just talking about saving the bullpen. Like he's planning for a future that isn't there yet, and everybody just keeps saying, "Oh, well, the bullpen, they need him for the playoffs." Blah blah blah. And it's like they got to get there. They're a game ahead of the Mets right now. If the D-backs lose tomorrow and Braves win, suddenly the D-backs are out of a playoff spot right now. So like we have to get there first, and it sucks, but we need these guys to be available every single day, because you're talking about with the bullpen was gas. Like I don't think it was, because what's his face? Thompson, Martinez, Ginkel, none of them pitched game 1 and none of them pitched game 2. So they had a day off here and there, and they have a day off today. Torrey sure saved them for for the rest day today, but it's just one of those things where this game was 3-5 coming into the 6th inning.
Yeah.
This wasn't the 4th inning. This wasn't the 3rd inning where you need a guy to get you some length out of there. The 6th inning, Ginkel, Thompson, Martinez, Puck. You have 4 dogs in that bullpen that can come out and give you those necessary last 4 innings of the game to ensure you that you have a chance in this game. And instead, Torrey goes to Floro because why? There's no reason to go back to him again. Like he already threw 1 inning and he did good in that one, which is good. That's one of the more consistent, better innings that he's thrown so far this whole season. And at that point, like I said, you don't need any more innings like that. Like you just need to get to the 9th. All right, you have your guys, you have your dogs back there. Let them cook. And Torrey didn't. And now it's been how many days has it been now since most of these guys have pitched? It's been like 3 or 4 days, and most of these guys have pitched. Martinez hasn't pitched since Thursday, I believe, or if not Thursday, then Wednesday. You're talking about a whole week in between innings, and you knock these guys out of rhythm. You can't keep doing that over and over again because you want to throw in Floro or Seawald or whoever else. Like this was just one of the more frustrating mismanagement of the bullpen. And if it was a one-time thing, fine. Okay, I get it. But we've seen this over and over and over again throughout this season where Torrey just makes these baffling moves to the bullpen, where he throws his C guys out there to work a whole nother inning, and he leaves them out there literally to die. They face 5, 6, 7 batters, and then they lose the lead, and then he finally takes them out. I'm like, why do you take him out now? Just let him get 3 outs at this point. And they're already down by six runs. And in this game, they were down, was it? Sorry.
They were down 1 going into that.
By the time Flora came out, it was 9-3, 9-4. This game is done. Like there's at that point you can just
10-4 actually. It was 10-4.
Okay,
yeah,
so I'm looking at it
gave
right
up
now.
5. 4 of them were earned. 1 was on I believe an error.
So when Flora came in, the D-backs had 4 runs.
All were earned, by the way.
Astros had
earned.
5. It was 4-5 coming into that bottom of the 6th inning.
Yep.
That's for this team. That's all. Might as well be tied. Like this is a 0-0 game right there.
Mm-hmm.
And they scored another run. They put up 5 runs on the Astros. If they would have had a better bullpen, they could have shut them down. And I know they've had issues. The bullpen has been having issues. And my dad mentioned it. It's like, oh, well, it's not like the bullpen has been getting this job done anyways. But it's like, at least you're giving this team a chance. You're putting your best guys out there, and if they fail, that's on them. If Puck crapped the bed, that's on Puck. You can't blame anybody else. You can't blame Torrey for that. If Puck can't get the job done, that's on him. But in this case, where he's throwing Floro out there for a whole other inning, and he gives up 5 runs until he finally pulls him out, that's on the manager. You have to know when a guy doesn't have it, and he clearly didn't have it because he gave up. You said, Brett, 5 hits in a row, 3, 4, 5 hits in a row.
I think it
hits,
was 2 hits, a line out, and then 3 hits in a row. It was a RBI single, and then a 3-run home run, I believe, from, let me see. Yeah, so it was a leadoff single from Chas McCormick, a single from Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez lined out. He got kind of lucky. It was only an 81-mile-an-hour line out, so somehow he got Yordan Alvarez to do a soft line out. Single from Yanier Diaz, Bregman single, and then it was Jeremy Pena with the 3-run home run.
Yeah, so it's like by the time he hit the home run, it was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take him out now. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Torrey. We're down 9-4 now, and this game is basically over because of how good that Astros bullpen game is. And this is the stuff that I brought up even earlier in the season when I know, Brandon, you would say, like, calm down. It's the first week, it's the second week, it's the third week. And then, like, these games matter still. We still have to play these games at the end of the year when we're a game ahead or a game behind of a wild card spot. Those games that we had in early April and May when Torrey put in, Scott McGuff or Miguel Castro to face the Braves or whatever. Those games matter, and now we're coming to the point where Torrey is still making the exact same mistakes over and over and over again. I'm like, who's their bench coach again? What's his face?
Bannister? Jeff Bannister?
Yeah, Jeff Bannister. Can he be in charge of the bullpen or something? Like, Jesus Christ! Like,
who should be in charge of the bullpen? Strom. Like, that's what I don't understand. Like,
yeah, so
there was
maybe we'll have that be like an off. Maybe we'll have that be like an off-season topic because I believe Mike Fetters has been the bullpen coach for multiple years in a row, and there's only so much Strom can do. It's like, hey man, back in the day, it's if you got 2 teachers, somebody's telling you one thing, somebody's telling you the other. Like, you can only trust the good teacher so much when the bad teacher's undoing all the good. Like, I don't know what it is with the bullpen.
The bullpen coach, I don't think, makes the decision. Like, he's just the coach that's out in the bullpen. This is on Torrey because Torrey's the manager. So Torrey decides to tell Strami who to get up and who to come in. Like, this one is all on Torrey. Like, this inning was so frustrating. Like, I can understand Torrey's logic because Fott only went 4 2/3, so he needed some coverage. So he got Flo to get that last out. But when it's 5-4 there in the 6th, and you give up back-to-back hits to start an inning, he should have had someone up right there. And with Yordan, I probably would have brought in Mantiply because we were in the 6th. If we were in the 7th or the 8th, I would have done Puck. But the fact is, I don't think he got anyone up till at least after the Yanier Diaz single and the Bregman single. Like, I probably would have said, all right, let me give you a chance with Yordan. He got him out. Okay, go to the next guy. Diaz got the hit. That's when he should have taken him out. That is when he should have taken him out. Because at that point, there was runners on 1st and 3rd, 1 out with Alex Bregman up. I would have brought in Joe probably in that case. Or someone else who can throw a sinker. I don't think anyone else can throw a sinker. But Joe's stuff is very off-speed heavy. So, like, he could have thrown – because Joe does throw a sinker, and he does have that changeup. So maybe he could have gotten Bregman to ground out. But then he's like, oh, Pena hit a 3-run homer, so it's now 10-4. Like, it's just I get what he wants these guys to be able to get out of these hard situations themselves. I don't think you can do that with middle relief guys. You do that with your starters, and you do that with your back end A bullpen. So Ginkel, Thompson, Puck, and Martinez. Anyone else, I think you give them one batter. If they get them out, okay, you get to go to another one. But that didn't that did not happen in this. Like moves like this are like, I get why people want Torrey fired. Like I really do. Like it just gets frustrating when his bad decisions just get amplified because they're so mind-numbing frustrating. Like he makes good decisions. People don't like to praise the good decisions. They like to critique the bad decisions. And unfortunately, Torrey does it a little bit too much for my taste. Like he does make these decisions. You're like, I don't know what you're doing. Like,
Yeah,
and there was the report. I don't remember when it was, but apparently, Strawmy and Torrey were. I wouldn't say arguing, but it looked like it was a very heated discussion about something, and it was late in the game, and a lot of people are theorizing that Strawmy wanted to do something like bring in a certain guy, and Torrey didn't. And the ultimate decision is Torrey's. Torrey is the manager. And I would say most of the time he makes good bullpen decisions, but then we have games like this where they're just awful. They're just like, completely changed the last third of the game. Like, had it still been 7-4, maybe they don't get that 3-run homer. 7-4 is easily doable. We've seen the Diamondbacks have these crazy 4-run, 6-run innings. Like, we know nothing's out of hand, but 6 runs with 9 outs is very difficult to come back from. So
I can understand, the point like you're saying, Brandon, about, Floro maybe, or the fact that, the starting pitcher in this game, and then we'll get to him in just a second, but the starting pitcher in this game not going very long kind of, hampers you a little bit. But I still think that the point of, it's you're fighting for a playoff spot, man. I don't care if, the starting pitcher kind of screwed you over a little bit. If you have better guys, like Gabe said, don't go to your C arms in the pen. Go to your B or at least A arms. Like Floro gave you the 3 outs. That's better than what he's been able to give you pretty much ever since we've even gotten him. He has not been what he was with the Nationals. He has not been that good. He has not had, I don't think, many, if any, 1, 2, 3 innings. So to me, it's, I'd rather have him play the better matchups, especially, the leaving the guys out to dry for too long. I get you want to trust your guys, but that's one of the things where it's a starter's a little different. I get if they're cruising and whatnot, but it just, I don't think that you can, let Floro go really much longer than the 3 outs that he did. And after those 2 singles, I would have taken him out. I agree. I would have rather had Mantiply face Yordan and then face Bregman and all that. But, as I said, the only reason the D-backs and Torrey were even in this position in the first place was the fact that Eduardo Rodriguez just could not give them innings. Yet again, he could not get even to the 6th. He couldn't even complete 5 in this one, continuing the trend of it's all about trends lately. The D-backs pitching staff and starting pitchers are just not doing good. I don't have the tweet in front of me, but over the last, it was 17 games or a certain amount of games, the D-backs have given up 70-something runs. They've given up the most runs in that stretch. It's one of those Brooks Gate tweets, and it's not been good. And it made me think about it with Erod. I think it was last episode we talked about what what we expect from a potential playoff rotation. What we would like to see in a 3-game series versus what the team might do for a 3-game series, because obviously fans' likes and wants are different than what the team has planned. But with his current struggles that he's been having, especially against good teams in the playoffs, you're gonna face good teams. What does Eduardo Rodriguez's role, or how does he fit into this team going forward, where you can't be giving up games, you can't be having your starting pitchers only go maybe 4 or 5 against good teams? So Gabe, to you, what do you think he would kind of fit into if this team can still make their way into the playoffs?
I don't know. I mean, I think we have our couple of A guys and Fod and Nelson, and then Gallen. We just have to see I believe he would start on Tuesday tomorrow, right? It would be his start. So
yeah, we have
hopefully
a series.
For who?
So
Thought?
Rangers.
Yeah, because he pitched very well. He had those 6 no-hit innings against the Giants. So if he's able to carry that, he looks a lot more stable, more in control, especially of the fastball. Then I think you can run him out for the playoff rotation as a number 1. Then try to see what we can get out of Fod or Nelson. But with Erod, oh man, we might have to piggyback a lot of these guys, like him, Montgomery, to a certain extent Kelly. Just depends on what he can give us. Like everything is going to come down to that last week of the season. That last week of the season is going to determine everything to do with this rotation, because I know we got Erod specifically for the playoffs, but if he's looking like this, then again we might need to get a guy to piggyback off of him, whether it's Montgomery or Nelson or even Fott. Like it just depends on. Because I don't feel confident with these guys, and it sucks that this has happened. And a lot of people are saying like, "Oh, well, maybe don't sign these 30-year-old lefties," but it's like they were hurt most of the season. Like I don't know what you expect out of them. Like look at Verlander. Verlander was hurt most of the season too. He came back and he's been struggling a bit. He's looked pretty decent. Same with Erod. It's not like every single outing, every single inning he looks bad. You'll have 2 or 3 really good innings and then sort of run out of steam and then fall apart in the 4th or the 5th. And we can talk about it later. Same with Nelson. Like being in a national game, he was probably a little bit too hyped, so he kind of blew his load a bit in that first inning, throwing 99, and then he was too tired to keep going up after the 5th. But it's frustrating. But again, we have a couple of weeks to figure this out, and I would hope that they have a better game plan going forward. And like I said, I can see them going to a sort of piggyback, quote unquote, opener model just to get them enough innings.
Yes. Yes. Honestly, I think that's probably the best route to go. Is you kind of got to, like you said, with fought in the playoffs last year, and like you mentioned earlier when we were talking about in game 1, where they treated it, hey, you know what? We're going to give you the outs that we're very confident with you getting. And then once we feel like it's the best time to win the game, to take you out, we're going to take you out. And that might just be what we need to do with Erod. If we do get the playoffs, like I think you make a good point. He could still be effective. He could there's times where even, I think we were talking about it before we went live in our pre-lobby here, of Erod was looking good the first 3 innings. He was against a good lineup, was looking solid, and then just the wheels fell off. But same question to you, Brandon. Where do you think in your mind Rodriguez kind of fits into the equation for the Diamondbacks, whether it's the rotation, bullpen, or what? How does he kind of fall in your mind?
So this is going to change start to start, because I'm still on the train that they signed him for the postseason because of all of his postseason experience with the Boston Red Sox. He will be a starter in the playoffs, whether that's game 3, game 4, depending on what series we are. I still think they would like to go Gallen, Kelly, and probably Erod in terms of experience. But like we've discussed, the way Ryan Nelson has pitched, Ryan Nelson deserves to pitch in the postseason, whether that's going to be game 1, 2, or 3. And it also depends on, like that last week, if we haven't clinched a spot and they need these guys to, like, say Gallen pitches on Saturday, very unlikely that he pitches game 1, which will probably be Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's going to depend on what's there. And my thing with Erod, this is his 5th start. He got 1 or 2 starts in spring. He's really in April form right now. Like right now, if we were in April, the way he's been pitching, we'd be like, oh, it's still early. It just sucks for him that he missed literally the first 3 months. It really does. Like, we are holding him to a different expectation with these starts right now. Like a lot of people want him to go 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned. People are gonna want him because of what he was paid and where we are in the season. they're going to want him to have quality starts, which is understandable. Like these games right now are so important, but you just got to remember he's still like in like April right now in terms of just how many innings he's thrown.
Yeah, and also I do want to say, he had 4 earned runs. One of them was on an error, right? Yeah. So
yeah,
yes,
I was
Four
incorrect with that
runs.
earlier.
he
Floro
he's
had the 4
still
earned, and then Erod had
5
no.
runs
So
is still
Flora had
giving his-
5.
sorry, yeah,
Floro
Floro
had
had
five.
5,
So-
Erod had 4. Yeah.
Yeah, so he still gave this team a chance to win. Like, even though it doesn't seem like it by the box score, 4 runs through 4 or 5 innings, that's still giving this team a chance to win, especially with the way this offense is. They scored 5 runs. Yeah, if this game would have stayed tied, they based off of his runs, this team either would have won, or this game would have either been won, or it would have been tied going into the ninth. It just depends. But again, same with that Mets game. Kind of fell off the rails, but 5 runs. We're trying to treat him as an ace, but as of right now, he's a number 5 guy. He is what we thought Ryan Nelson was going to be, and if we temper expectations and see him as a number 5 starter, suddenly his numbers don't look that bad. But just the issue is the money and the expectations.
Yes, I think both of you guys make some like good points and just
This
good
isn't
ideas.
happening. This isn't happening in the series, Vi. So if that's what you're waiting for, we're not really discussing it in this series because
Paul Sewald is on our back of our minds. He's like Gabe said earlier, he's the C arm now. We're not expecting too much. The bar's low on him. But thankfully the D-backs would end up, taking this unfortunate, game 2. And it seems like they would Uno reverse card for making, Yordan Alvarez and I guess more specifically him looking like Barry Bonds, and the D-backs pitchers just absolutely sucking, to Justin Verlander looking like Eduardo Rodriguez and Pavin Smith looking like Yordan Alvarez and Barry Bonds. Because in game 3, thank goodness on national TV, they actually showed up with, some kind of offense. And thankfully it was all Pavin Smith. Without him, I believe V said even in the chat, without him, we would not have won, because he went 3 for 4, 3 homers. He was a 2-run home run shy of hitting for the home run cycle. And he provided, I think it was 8 RBIs, and the score was 12 to 6. So without him, you take out Pavin, the GOAT, as Brandon's name in our dispatch Discord is, Pavin Smith, the GOAT. We would have lost this game. And looking into some of his stats, this season, I know it's a smaller sample size, considerably. He's just over 100 at bats, or 100 plate appearances, I believe, on the season. It's still half of what he saw last year, but his numbers are looking pretty solid. He's got 24 hits, 7 home runs on the year, 26 RBIs. He's slashing 273, 343, 562 with the above 900 OPS. Which, if you tell me Pavin Smith has above 900 OPS, I genuinely wouldn't have believed you. And then his WRC plus is sitting at 144 and OPS plus at 147. His numbers over the last 7 games are a little more inflated because of the home runs. He's got a 268 WRC plus. So again, Barry Bonds reincarnate. But this, kind of stretch from Pavin and the success we've seen from him this year, despite all the, the up and downs to Reno and here, and again, our doubts. How does your outlook on Pavin, gentlemen, change after his performances this year compared to, maybe our pre-biases that we've had in the past? And of course, as I say this, Kayla's favorite player now on the D-backs, she has to chime in. But yeah, so what is your opinion on Pavin Smith, the red-headed menace, changed, or has it changed? I should ask.
I believe I said it earlier this year about when I was talking about Pavin. I don't hate Pavin. Like, I truly don't have any true issues with them other than the way he's used. This is how he should be used. He's a guy who should start maybe 1, at most 2 games per week. He's fine pinch hitting. He walks a lot. That's the main thing I like about Pavin, is that he just has a really, really good eye for the zone. He has great play discipline. The issue is he just doesn't hit a lot. He doesn't make as much contact or hard contacts as I would like. But that's what it was for me. It was just he's not an everyday guy. He's a really good depth piece, like we saw in this game, and we've seen throughout the season when Torrey uses him sparingly. This is who he can be. Like he is, playoff P. He's primetime Pavin. And you don't get primetime Pavin every day. Like you have to save him for these specific situations. Like he has 2 of the grand slams this season. He has a walk-off home run. Like he's been better this year in general. But it's just one of those things, like I said, he's not an everyday player. And with the way that Torrey played him these last few years, he played him as an everyday guy. And just offensively and defensively, when he plays every day, he really struggles. But if you give him enough looks, enough time, he is able to put bat on the ball and get performances like this every once in a while. And like I said, this is who he is. He is a guy who's going to come off the bench and get you a big hit. He's pretty damn clutch for most of his career, even when he was playing every day. But again, we need him like in games like this when, we need an extra guy. We need to get either Suarez or any of the outfielders or Walker a day off. That's what Pavin is for. He's not there to play every single day the way Torrey seemed to really like him, in past years.
So that's honestly, I think it's a great, great point. Is he's in the past he's been kind of maybe played too much where he's had to face more lefties. He is facing some tougher righties where maybe the matchups aren't his best. Or I love weird coming out of my mouth. I love Pavin as a human, and I've wanted him to be good. This is where my criticisms of him in the past have come from, because again, when you're going to spend a first round draft pick, when we have Paul Goldschmidt as your first baseman still at the time, still be salty about it. You're going to have a little more expectations to it. But I think him being kind of a platoon bat, hitting here and there against, the right pitchers, I think is a great idea and a great point where just get the most out of him, let him stay hot and let him, hit like this. But same question to you, Brandon. How does your outlook on him change and, opinion on him? Obviously, your Discord name kind of gives it away a little bit. You think he's the GOAT now? I'm just kidding. But seriously, what do you think on the or what do you think about Pavin now that he's shown a little bit more of what he can do this year? Again, coming up and down.
So putting my gimmick aside for being a huge Pavin hater, you said basically what I thought. Pavin's good in short spurts. Like Pavin should not be a 400 plus at bats. Like he should be that 150 to 200, because I think teams are able to identify some of his weaknesses the more that they see him. But right now, like he 90 at bats, so just like a month's worth. Like I'm very surprised with the power. I am not gonna lie. Like if you would ask me, someone's gonna have a 3-homer game on Sunday Night Baseball, my guess would have been Gino. Like it really would have been Gino because of the way he's been struggling lately. But Pavin won us this game without a doubt. Like his grand slam was one of the cheapies there at Houston with the Crawford boxes. Yeah, I mean, partially, Josh, you cook all the time, so I wouldn't say that. But like these numbers from Pavin, like I'm fine giving him maybe 1 or 2 starts a week. Because I feel like Jake has cooled off a little bit. Like he hasn't come. He's not Antarctica cold, but he's not exactly as hot as he was. So like if you want to give an off day, and right now with Gurriel out, Pavin's probably going to get a little bit more starts than he normally would. So Pavin needs to take advantage of that. But
Yeah,
like
so
I've said before, Pavin to me was always the definition of mid. Everything he did was good. It was great. He didn't do anything outstanding. He didn't have blazing speed. He's not a above average defender. Doesn't have a cannon for an arm. His hit for average is okay. His hit for power is okay. But like Gabe said, his plate discipline. So maybe that is his thing. They need someone to like pinch hit late in the game. Like I think Pavin has that potential to potentially have those pinch hit late game home runs. Or we're late in the game, runner in scoring position, and we need a pinch hitter. And as long as it's a right-handed pitcher, I think Pavin can be successful. Lefty, I don't know. Like, it's really hard to be a good lefty. It's so difficult because it's literally coming from behind you. Like, it's just hard. That's why
any lefty trying to hit Chris Sale. Like, it still baffles me how they like.
Or AJ Puck. Like,
yeah, like
Puck is the same way. Like, I think if you were facing like a Joe Mantiply lefty, it's fine because it's not fast. It's like he throws a lot of sinkers and changeups. But with Chris Sale, that freaking slider, like, and AJ Puck with his fastball and his slider from the left side, like, it is nasty. So Pavin, like, if he can do this, like, for me, if I just don't want to see him, like, they will start him and then we keep saying 0 for 3, 0 for 4, 0 for 3. Like, if they start him and he has let's say 1 for 3 with a single and a walk, that's enough for, like, I don't need Pavin to be Corbin. I don't need him to be Jake. I just need him to not be a guaranteed 3 outs because that, to me, that handicaps the team. You already have 27 outs. I don't like putting in guys that handicap the team and you have 24 outs. Like, it's so difficult to win with 27 outs. And the fact that you limit your team for 3, like, it is difficult for me. I may back off on my Pavin hate a little bit because this kind of, like, it'd be really hard for me to say that he's awful after, like, it's like I just can't. Like, it would be like in a gimmick. I wouldn't actually believe it. So I don't want to see him start like every game for a week. Like, that's the thing that I just don't think that's what Pavin is. Pavin is a good role player, and he can start for you in a pinch.
Yeah, we definitely don't need him to be this kind of Pavin all the time. But if he could be,
I mean, if he wants to, I'm not gonna be mad.
So if he wants to be like this all the time, then I'd be okay with it. But we definitely, and the D-backs definitely needed Pavin to be like this in this game because, as I said before, his 8 RBIs were, without it, would not have been enough. And one of the main reasons why it would not have been enough is because one of the guys that we've been giving flowers to plenty of times on the show in the past, and deservingly so, you know, he's been stellar for 3 months. Nelson was not as nasty Nelly as we've seen before. Whereas this being kind of one of his rare starts of getting hit around, as this is his first start since August 4th, where last time when he faced the Pirates on that day, he gave up, I think it was more than 2 earned runs. It was 3+. And this is the 3rd start of his last 10 that he's only given up 3 runs or more. So he's still really solid. You know, obviously there's nothing like major to worry about, but just the fact that, you know, him doing this, and then also like we talked about in game 1 with Brandon Pfaadt, is this just another case of, you know, facing a good lineup and just sometimes, you know, you might not have your best stuff on any day, or is this maybe a sign that Ryan could potentially start regressing to the mean? Because, you know, he's been good for 3 months. A 3-month stretch is really good for a pitcher, but we've seen it kind of like Zach Gallen, kind of like Merrill Kelly, just any pitcher in general. Some just players in baseball will come back down to earth. So do you think this was a case of Ryan just facing a good lineup, or, you know, maybe it just his, you know, like I said, he's just kind of like dialing it back down? So Gabe, you have the floor. I'm curious what you what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I sort of mentioned it earlier. This was, you know, a game against the Astros on national television. Ryan Nelson came out throwing harder than he ever had before. He was throwing 99, getting close to 100. And I think maybe just the adrenaline, the excitement, everything got to him, and he was, you know, throwing cheese out there. So I think that might have been the main issue because he was cruising to 3, then got through 4, and just really, really struggled. And I think maybe he just really, really struggled to find the strike zone and struggled with the speed because his velocity did dip down a bit. And we've seen players talk about it, especially during the playoffs. Like they have those jitters. They come out, with full adrenaline in those first couple of innings. They're completely powered by adrenaline, and then finally, third, fourth, fifth inning, they just, they try to find their rhythm, but they can't anymore because they kind of just wasted all their bullets early on. I think maybe that's what happened to Ryan, just because this has been uncharacteristic of him, and because of how hard he started throwing. I would be curious about his next start. If his next start is the same thing, then I think maybe he might be regressing to the mean. But if the next start goes about as well as the other ones have, then I think it's just a one-off, and I wouldn't be too worried about him. I mean, he still gave his team a chance to win. 5 runs, 4 innings. That's fine. I'm not happy about the bullpen usage because of everyone's given 4 innings right now. But either way, it's the Astros. Like I said, the Astros are in the ALCS every single year. They are one of the best teams in baseball. It's until they show us differently, it's their World Series to lose every year.
Yeah, not only are they one of the best, or are they in the ALCS every year? I think they've been to 7 straight American League Championship Series. So it's just sometimes, kind of like we got to live with it in the NL West. The AL West has to deal with. Thank goodness we don't have to. Because could you imagine the Dodgers making 7 straight NLCSs? I couldn't.
Their fans would be even more obnoxious than they are.
Oh yeah, they'd still have 0 actual rings. But
do you have any clips? Because Oscar brought up a good point that the hits were on good pitches, and there were a few where there were some sliders that weren't even in the zone, and I think it was a changeup or 2 where outside the zone they just made really good contact off of it. And again, this is the Astros. They are a very, very good team, and I know the joke is the trash cans, but they were good before, and that's one of the more frustrating things is that they didn't need the trash cans to be good. Like they have some really, really good guys that look up and down that lineup. There's probably a lot of Hall of Famers on there.
So if we're talking that 5th inning, one of the hits was like center cut. Everything else was on the edge of the zone. So really only one of the hits was like the one against Gamble was like middle third. So it wasn't a bad pitch. Chaz McCormick was a 4-seamer at the bottom of the zone. Jose Altuve, his was the one that was in the middle of the plate. Like that one should have been crushed, but everything else was on the edge of the zone. They're just like we said, they're the Houston Astros. They're a good team.
Yeah, you might have pretty much said everything yourself. Like I kind of agree. It's the Astros are a good team, man. Like they're one of the better teams in the AL. Like they had a slow start to the year, and if they didn't fumble out of the gate and have probably one of the worst starts in their franchise since back when they might have been in the NL, their record would probably be a whole lot more daunting than it is, especially they missed Kyle Tucker for a long time. So it was unfortunate for us because they did get Kyle Tucker back. So you add Kyle Tucker into the lineup of like Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Jeremy Pena was a World Series MVP. So like I know he's not like he didn't play like that for the entirety of last year, and even this year he's not playing like the same level. But still, I think it's a good point of maybe he's regressing to the mean, but I personally would put it more on just, even on the Oscar and like you guys were talking about, it's not like he was just throwing meatballs and getting beat on meatballs. Ryan Nelson is still going to attack guys in the zone and be aggressive. He's going to keep it in the zone. And it's just one of those where that one inning, he just had a Brandon Pfaadt inning, he just had an inning where he got hit around a little bit. But I think this probably would be the perfect time before we move on into a little bit of a series preview. Oh,
hold up. I just want to get my thoughts on Ryan Nelson here.
Oh yeah, sorry. Thank you.
This was one bad start. Like I'm not gonna say that he's regressing because it's one start. Like his next start, he could go 7 innings, 4 hits, 8 Ks. And I'm like, oh no, that was just he was really hyped up to be on national TV. He was throwing 99 there in the first inning. Like he was ripping it back and throwing it down. Like he faced a really good team. Like, if he did this against like the Pirates or the A's, I'd be like, oh boy. But it's the Houston Astros. So it's not that big of a concern for me. Because he's been our most consistent pitcher all summer. Like it's all due to a simple mechanics change. Which is so crazy. Like if the season ended today, he starts the first game of the playoffs, no doubt in my mind. But we'll see how everyone's pitching there over the next 3 weeks. I still think Torrey goes with Zach Gallen in the first playoff game, unless Zach pitches like right at the end of the season where he's not on his normal rest. That would be the only reason I think Gallen doesn't start the first playoff game. So, Nasty Nelly.
I still think he's going to be Nasty Nelly. Like he's not lost my confidence. I'm not worried about him. Like we are about Erod and some of these other guys. He's one of the few people that has kept the D-backs ERA over the last like month and a half from looking way worse than it possibly could. So, again, my apologies, Brandon, for cutting you off earlier there. But getting to some of the questions that you guys had in the chat that we have starred here. So, Josh had this one earlier. I thought it was kind of interesting, especially we're getting into football season, so it kind of fits the theme a little bit. What if Torrey handled the pinch hitting and Strami did the bullpen, like an offensive and defensive coordinator? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that would be good. The issue is always, Torrey always says, "Oh, well, I consulted my guys and blah blah blah. This is what we came up with." Unfortunately, we're never going to get a real straight answer because we mentioned it before when a guy's he pulls in the worst reliever in baseball, and then he'll be like, "Oh, he looked good to me. I liked him in that situation." Like Torrey just gives canned answers, so we're never going to get a straight answer from him. But maybe they do. Maybe we do have Strami as a bullpen coordinator or something. But it sounds pretty good. I mean, he seems to know when his players are struggling. I do think a lot of these struggles overall come down to Gabby being out. He stabilizes the pitching staff so well. And I think if there's anybody who should be in charge of the bullpen, it's probably Gabby because he knows if a guy has his stuff or not.
Yeah. It's a good question to you, Brandon.
It's a hard decision, a hard answer for me, because I feel like sometimes Torrey believes in his guys too much, and I feel like Strom might know who's pitching well right now. Like I feel like Torrey's too close to it, and I feel like Strom could make a better decision because I think he works with these guys more, so he knows what their stuff is. But I don't know if he has that sort of experience of making the decision for who comes out of the pen. So
yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting point, especially like, could you imagine like in baseball, instead of like just your manager, you had your offensive, like you literally baseball had an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. That's maybe we'll keep that one in the bank, Josh, and that'll be in the off season when we have some more like fun streams, fun questions, like hypotheticals, and we need to kill some time. But one of the other questions that we got was actually in our Discord, so a little promo Discord and all the links in the socials we got there. But this was from Corbin Barrels. Mr. Corbin Barrels asked us, said, with all the pitching struggles recently, how much do we think not having Gabby is affecting the quality of starting and relief pitching? And Gabe, I know you touched on it, and that was a beautiful transition. You put that bad boy on a T for me. That was thank you very much. I appreciate that. But what do you think, not having Gabby does, realistically for this team and the psyche for like just everybody?
I mean, I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know the numbers are always just ridiculous. Like you're talking about, ERAs being cut in half when Gabby's out there. And one of the issues right now is the defense and, getting base runners. This team cannot throw up base runners right now. I believe they're 2 in like 40 or something like that with attempted steals right now since Gabby has been out. And I love Herrera. I still do really love Herrera. I think he's He manages this staff really well. But we need Gabby. Like Gabby is the number one guy for a reason. We traded for him for a reason. Like he is the future of this team, and we need him to be healthy and to be out there because we've seen this happen before. We saw it last year when he went down. This team was just had a ridiculously bad record. It was something like 15-30. Like, and I feel like we're starting to see that a little bit now. And as soon as he comes up, ADC is probably going down to Reno because the team is caught up to him. They know his playbook and they know what he can hit and what he can't hit and what he can do, in terms of the catching standpoint too. And we mentioned it before. Sometimes we just need a guy to come up from Reno and have a couple good weeks just to keep things afloat. But the injuries are catching up, and specifically with Gabby, I think he's able to maneuver this staff a lot better than Jose and Adrian, just because we see it, same with Perdomo. They stop the game to go talk to their guys. Like, it's not always Strami, it's not always Lovello. They're not always the ones who stop and say, go visit the pitcher. Sometimes you'll just see Gabby just, even, they can't get on the same page. Gabby stops, he goes to talk to them, and we see them, starting to pitch better. And so he is a leader. We have a lot of these really young natural leaders on this team, and we need them out there because without them, I mean, we see this huge difference. Since he's been down, this team is struggling to get through 4 innings. They're struggling to get through 5 innings, and same with the bullpen. They're really, really struggling right now. And I think when Gabby comes back, he is going to be able to stabilize, this pitching staff.
Same question to you, Brandon. With all the struggles and all that, how much does Gabby not being here just impact the staff in general?
It's probably the biggest factor, and we talked about it when Gabby went out. Are we going to see as big of a drop off like we did last year? And it's different. Like last year, like we just all around we were playing poorly. This is just pitching has been just not good at all. And like Gabe said, the amount of teams that are running and are so successful running on the Diamondbacks because they know Gabby's not back, and I'm wondering if just his ability to stop the run also affects the way that pitch sequencing is called. And that's probably another thing he's really good at is pitch sequencing. When to call a pitch, where to call it. It's stuff like that doesn't show up in a box score. Something you just don't see. So I'm hoping he gets back here. I don't think we've had any real updates on him lately, so I'm hoping it's
last I saw is he was just hitting in the backfields, taking ABs, but he was not doing any running whatsoever. So it probably, I think it said still mid-September, so we're probably at least another week away. But from guys,
I wanted to say sorry real quick, just because Brian brought it up, the run game too, on was it Thursday? The last game against San Francisco, they lost because the guy stole a base. Martinez gave up a hit or a walk, whatever it was. He stole second base, and then just that little single that he hit was enough. Yeah, the double was just enough to get the run across. And with Gabby back there, I highly doubt he makes, either he doesn't try to steal or he gets the out 9 times out of 10. So, when you have plays like that, that's also going to run up the pitcher ERA, because if he walks a guy and he steals 2 bases off of him, which I believe the Mets did, right? Lindor, I think, stole 2 bases off in the same at bat. If they're just running train on these guys, yeah, of course, a singles are turned to triples, and so little flyouts, bloop singles, they score a lot more than they would on Gabby.
Yeah, so his impact is just felt all over. The offense was able to kind of make up for it and win in some games, but when they've been doing what they've been doing lately, what you're seeing from Gabby is definitely missed. And one of the big reasons the offense hasn't been doing what they're doing is because I know they just got they just returned, but from I'd say probably our last question of the viewer questions before we get into a preview is from the basketball and football guy. They asked, when do we expect Seawalk and Ketel Marte to be back to playing their normal selves? I know they both returned from the IL literally this last week, so it's not like we're rushing them. But I would say in a sense we somewhat are, because like you guys said earlier, we're got 18 games left. There's not much to go. So I'll start with you, Gabe. when do you think that Walker or Marte will get back to their pre-IL stint selves, or in general, do you think they will?
I believe it should be the Rockies series next Monday. That's probably when they're going to be resuming, being everyday guys and being able to get back into their rhythm to swing at things because they are swinging at really bad pitches and they're also missing perfect balls like just straight on tee over and over again. Walker was just swinging underneath, 91-mile-per-hour fastballs and sliders straight down the middle. So he's not going to be missing that much soon. Seeing actual game, actual guys pitching, not just from the back lots or from pitching machines. Like it's just all about rhythm. And I think by next week, once they face the Rockies, they'll probably find their rhythm, and then we can see this team almost fully at full strength.
I agree. Same question to you, Brandon. When do you think, or if the tandem of Walker and Marte get back to their previous, IL selves when they were borderline carrying this team for so long?
For me, for Ketel, give it a couple more games because he wasn't as out as long as Walker. I think Walker, it might take a little bit longer because, like Gabe said, there were multiple pitches in Houston that before he got hurt, that's a homer. Like he missed a middle of the zone hanging slider. Like he just fouled it off. So for me, it's all about just getting back in the rhythm, seeing live pitching. Like they will be back. Like they will be back to their normal selves because they're both having an amazing season. I kind of feel bad for Walker because he was on pace for like 30 homers and 100 runs driven in easily. I'm not sure he's going to get that now because of the month that he missed. And what sucks for Ketel is he was in the MVP talks, like right there next to Shohei. He missed, 2 weeks? And now it's all about Lindor because of the surge that the Mets have gone on, which it's deserving. What Lindor has done since he was put in the leadoff spot for the Mets a couple of months ago is huge. Like he has willed them to the right there for the playoffs. Like they are because I think they won tonight. I think they're 1 game behind us. No, actually they're number 3 because the Braves lost today. So right now they would be the number 3 wild card. They're 1 game behind us for the second, and they're 1.5 behind the Padres. So right now we have 4 teams for 3 spots. So Walker, I could see maybe this time next week he's probably good to go. Marte, it could even be tomorrow or Wednesday because I just think he needs like 1 or 2 more games to see live pitching to get his timing back. I was so happy to see that he looked like he was fine once he came back. Like that was my big worry, was that it would be just like what happened when they sat him down for a couple of days. Like he gets 1 swing and he re-hurts his ankle, but he looked like he was fine. They just wanted to give him an extra day off there on Sunday. So completely understandable. So I'm hoping within a week they're both back to where we have been accustomed, not just this season, but the last few seasons with Walker and Marte.
Yeah, I think Gabe's point about the Rocky series being a big one, where if they can't, somewhat look, maybe not fully back to themselves, but at least show some signs, then I think we would maybe start to worry a little bit about then. But before we could even get to the Rocky series, we have to worry about the 2-gamer that we have ahead of us, which is a little bit of a rematch and, might open some old wounds as the reigning World Series champion Texas Rangers coming to town for a 2-game series. Game 1 is going to be Nathan Eovaldi, 11-7, 3.55 ERA versus Zach Gallen, 11-6, 3.69 ERA. And then game 2 is going to be lefty Cody Bradford. He's 5-2 with a just over 3 ERA, 3.05 versus the mainstay, Merrill Kelly, and his 4-0 record with a 4.08 ERA. So I just wanted to get your gentlemen's quick thoughts on, this upcoming series. what you'd like to see, what you're expecting, and just maybe some predictions if you have those too. So Gabe, we'll start with you.
I know it's 2 games, but they need a sweep. Like with the way the Mets are playing and how close the Braves are, they need to sweep these 2 games. We can't afford to, go 8-10 in these next 18. They desperately need to go either 10-8 or 11-7, and it starts with sweeping the Rangers.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon?
They gotta win at least, like Gabe said, 9 to 10 games, because I still think 89 wins gets you a wild card spot. It may take some more the way the Mets, but if we get to the 3 wild card, I'm completely fine with that. Just get a playoff spot. At this point, I don't care where it is. Just get in, because last year we saw what happens. Like, we limped in. Like, we legit lost 3 in a row going into the playoffs, and we made it to the World Series. So, yes, Oscar, this is great too that Corey Seager is not going to be here. We don't have, because he has already hurt us this season. Like, he took a win from us.
I've seen that Corey Seager signed World Series homer photo at work too many times to where I was dreading even seeing another Corey Seager home run this series. So thankfully we do not have to deal with that. But honestly, just
as Gabe said, sweep. Like, they have to sweep. I think sweep is almost required. Game 1's going to be tough, though. Nathan Eovaldi's a pretty good pitcher. So hopefully we get the Zach Gallen we got on, what was that, Wednesday? No, Thursday, against the Giants. The 6 no-hit innings. So let's see. I want to see him put together multiple quality starts in a row. Because that's the thing Zach Gallen's been lately. He's been this start, and then we see one where he throws 25 pitches in the first and barely makes it through 5 on 100 pitches. So I want to see him put together a really good start here. Like, right now would be a really great time for Cy Young Zach Gallen to stand up.
Yes, we need him and the mainstay to prove why they're going into the season. They were the lockdown 1 and 2 guys that we had. But again, thank you to everybody for, stopping by. I want to give a shout out to everybody that was in here. Corbin, Shug, AZ Bubba, V, Oscar, Ethan Draper, my boy, our man, Josh.
Pavin Smith, club president.
Yeah.
That's who Ethan is, y'all.
Yeah. And then Kayla, my wife, is definitely going to be in there as well. So shout out everyone as well. And then Red Sox Nation, Supra, should come in at the end. We seriously appreciate each and every one of you guys. And then also we would appreciate if you guys, drop a like and all that, because it really does help out the algorithm and everything. And then make sure you guys, if you obviously are listening on YouTube, if you do miss the show ever, we are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. And then all article or series recaps and everything are going to be up on AZ Snakebit. And if you're just in general looking for some great content to read, I believe it was Ben Siegel just had a article on Ryan Nelson and his turnaround, and it's genuinely a great read. I'm a big stat guy. There's a lot of stats in there. There's a lot of deep dives, so highly recommend it. But before we get out of here, I wanted to get just quick final thoughts from you guys, and just any final words from you two.
Don't collapse.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you, Brandon?
Do go 500 from this point out in the season, and we're in the playoffs. Anything less, it might be out of our hands. Like, we may need some other teams like the Reds to help us, but you go 10-9, 11-8 in your next 19. I feel pretty good that we'll be in. I don't know how I'll feel about how we're playing, because we have 7 games against the Brewers in the next 2 weeks. If that right there will determine our playoffs. I think even if they go 500, they go 4-3 or 3-4 against the Brewers, I think that'll be enough to get in. But anything less than that, it's not going to be pretty around here. That's what I'll say.
Yes, I just do not have a collapse. Do not, overestimate your opponents. You're going to have those 7 against the Brewers, 3 against the Rockies. It's in front of you. It's in front of you, boys. Go get it done. And make us happy. So when we come back here on, what's it going to be, Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday evening. Give us some good news to talk about. Let's see a series sweep. But again, in the meantime, thank you very much for each and every one of you guys for coming through, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, and all that. Like, comment, share. Again, both podcasts and all that, AZ Snake Pit. And we will see you guys on Wednesday evening with some more series recap.
Final series of the year is at home against the Padres. So just to answer that final question.
Make sure you guys show up for that as well, too. So we'll cover that plenty before we get into it. But if I'm available and if it really does come down to those final 3 games, if you're available, you have the time, D-backs fans, show up. You got to show up. You got to show up. These might be, if we do miss it, these might be the only 3 playoff atmospheres we get. So pack the ballpark. Make it a fun time. We'll see you on Wednesday.
It's the D-backs dispatch. Let's go. Yeah, bring the red game. Josh on the floor. West Coast vibes, catch us on the air. Home run dogs, diamond gems we share. Brandon was a stat, Caesar man was a plan. Red brace it down, Chelsea like it is, fan. Gabs on fire, brings the heat every time. Josh on the mix, keep the beat so prime. I got the insights every week's a hit. Tune in, D-backs dispatch, this is it. Now we rollin'. D-backs, dispatch, yeah. Talk to Brandon, Brandon Gay, this is Big Kench. Josh on the mix, he makes the beats. West Coast vibe, got the G fucking the band. The home Mac, the home Mac, the home Mac, home Mac. D-backs dispatch, we hit the stage. Yeah, catch us every week, we bring the flavor to it. We got the home Mac, the home Mac, the home Mac, home Mac. D-backs dispatch, we hit the